Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome everybody. Another edition Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. Let's break it down. What we are going to talk about today. UFC 289. Amanda, the GOAT, the Lioness, retains, then retires. Epic fashion. Going to dive into that. Charles Oliveira, without question, puts himself as the number 2 contender in the lightweight division in the world. Spectacular victory over the awesome Beneil Dariush. Floyd Mayweather. Yes, 50-0, 49-year-old Floyd Mayweather decides to go toe-to-toe with some gangsters. We're going to get into that. But I want to start with our good old friend Conor McGregor. Get another KO victory this past weekend, but not in an MMA fight, rather at an NBA game. And he completely lights out Bernie, the mascot for the Miami Heat. To help me break all this down, I got to bring in my co-host. Follow him on Twitter, John_Morgan, MMA. Read him on the underground, mixedmartialarts.com. John Morgan, what's up, pal?
Bro, there's so much going on. I'm so excited to talk about everything, but I did wonder what you were thinking as your worlds collided, my man. I mean, Conor McGregor, the biggest star in the history of mixed martial arts, knocking out an NBA mascot. I mean, couldn't get any closer to home for you. And then just to see all the backlash and everything that came out of it, because it's amazing to have this, incredible star on an NBA court, but then it gets real complicated real fast. And I'm telling you, I could not wait to talk to you because I wondered just what your brain was going through dealing with all this.
Anger was the first thing that came to mind, right? And not anger that Conor McGregor did what he did. Like, listen, as a pro mascot, if I get the ability to work with Conor McGregor, I'm jumping at the opportunity, especially with it being a huge MMA guy like I am. Now, like, let's take a step back. I've done it. I've done bits with Rampage. I've done bits with Chuck Liddell. I've done bits with Clay Guida, right? So I've merged my worlds on a few occasions, never to the superstardom of Conor McGregor. But let's set the stage. Game 4, NBA Finals. Miami Heat playing the Denver Nuggets in South Beach, Miami. Now, the Miami Heat are down 2-1. They are getting run in this game, right? So they're losing this game, about to go down 3-1 in the NBA Finals. I think they need a pick-me-up. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Got to rally.
But no, the brilliance of the Miami Heat says, hey, Conor McGregor, how about you come onto our court and demoralize us even further? How about you beat the shit out of our mascot at center court? The decision-making there, I just want to start there. What is going on?
Yeah, that's wild in itself when you really put it that way. Because when I first saw it, I just saw the incident. And I'm like, wow. And I'm just thinking about it from a straight MMA perspective because that's kind of my world. But when you put it like that, it really makes no sense whatsoever. What are we doing? Putting down our mascot, this representative of our team. Let's do something with Conor McGregor, not against Conor McGregor. Let's not hang another L on us today.
The Miami Heat took an L with the team. And then, dare I say, they may have taken a bigger L with the mascot, because we're going to dive into this. Listen, if lawyers wanted to get involved, I probably said they could. I don't advocate for it, but let's just get into it. I'm going to break this down for people about how skits come together in a professional sports, right? Now, Conor McGregor's in on the joke. The Miami Heat marketing department's in on the joke. The mascot's in on the joke. So anytime you write a skit, as you know, you write a column, you have other people proofread it. You get everybody together, maybe take the comma out here, put the colon there, take this sentence, take that, all right? I'm just trying to put it to your world so it makes sense. In my world, come up with an idea, present it to the marketing department. They're like, boom, let's run with it. I bring in the talent. I sit them down. I talk through it. Then I take them to the court and I run through it. I don't leave anything to chance. Nothing. That's not what happened here.
Wow.
I got to talk with the guy who got lights out.
What?
I had a full conversation with him yesterday, right? Colleague of mine. The way this broke down, and I guarantee you, this is the scoop of all scoops. Nobody else has got this information. We do. The Miami Heat marketing department and Conor McGregor connect, which is not uncommon. Hey, got Conor coming to the game. We want tickets. We want to buy some front row tickets. And then a lot of times, I'm not saying this happened, but a lot of times said, well, hey, if we do a bit together, we'll give you these seats. It's good to have high profile people sitting courtside and then showcase them. We'll do that in exchange for the seats. Commonplace.
Of course.
Okay. So they decide to do a bit together, whether it be for free seats or just because Conor wanted to do it. Don't know that. But the Miami Heat come up with the idea, hey, why don't you come out and punch our mascot? Hey, don't worry. He's padded up. He's in a mascot costume. He's padded up. Now, I'll tell you, there's no padding. There may be fabric.
I was going to say.
There's no padding.
He's not like in a football uniform.
And I have this firsthand. Conor McGregor, after the fact, was very apologetic to the guy and saying, they told me you were protected.
Oh,
okay.
Come on.
That's step one. So then apparently the marketing department goes to the guy, the mascot, and says, hey, we have Conor McGregor. We're going to do this bit. First off, it wasn't the mascot's idea. It was the marketing department. So they go tell him what they want to do, not show him. Not bring them together. They told him the day of the game, hey, you're going to come out. We want you in a boxer robe, big boxer glove, dance around Conor McGregor. He's going to then playfully hit you a couple times. Whether they say playfully hit it to Conor or just hit, I don't know. But either way, and I go, whoa. I go, stop right now while you're telling me the story. Are you meaning to tell me the first time you saw Conor McGregor was at center court? You didn't talk to him beforehand. You didn't run through this. This is game 4 of the NBA Finals on national television, streamed across the world, all the media looking at it. And we're just going to go out there and see how it goes, right? We're going to play. We're going to take every chance in the world and not knowing exactly Conor should hit me here, not here. Yeah, maybe dial it down a little. How about we do something really cool? Albeit the dumb idea of like, just beat me up. Still don't understand that one, right? So he goes, yeah, we never talked. The first time I saw Conor McGregor was at center court.
But that makes, Conor McGregor is a trained mixed martial artist. Like, he's not a trained professional wrestler that understands how to, exactly like on the fly. Yeah, on the fly. I can pull my punch. I've been doing that my whole life. I can make this. Like, I know how to knock people out. What are we doing?
So the mascot dances around Conor. Boop, 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 boop. Time comes, Conor, bam! And Conor throws a live round. If you watched it, it's a live round.
Yeah.
He
was told to punch him.
He was told to hit him. He was protected. First off, Conor did nothing wrong here. Right?
My man's got a 1/2 inch of fabric around him. He's good to go. Don't worry, Conor. Just go ahead and punch him as hard as you can.
The guy did have, I would assume, which is like a skateboarding helmet that it's all attached to, right? Where the head goes in. So the first one kind of hits him in the side of the head, in the helmet. But you're taking a shot for Conor McGregor in a helmet that you don't expect. You're still going down.
Well, yeah, and hold on. By the way, I didn't know there was a helmet underneath that uniform. Do you think Conor McGregor knew there was a helmet underneath? Can you imagine if he throws a left hand and breaks his hand? We're trying to get there. A pay-per-view booked. What are we talking? What? We're gonna get there, right? So then, the mascot falls. Now, whether anybody was told about a second punch or not, who knows? The second punch comes down, and Conor, adding the showmanship in him. Let's give one more for good measure. I would do it too. No fault on Conor. Boom. Guess where it hits him? In the neck. Oh.
In the neck, right?
That's not good.
I want you to watch this back. Conor then kind of postures up and walks around. You watch him grab his hand. Like, that wasn't padding. You watch him do that. I've watched this many times. He's like, oh, that wasn't padding. And then goes back to being a showman, right? And they drag the mascot off, which was part of the bit. Hey, grab him by the legs, drag him off. Guy's really hurt under there. He really took 2 lives from Conor McGregor. So just to clarify and just to break this all down, Conor was told what to do, not shown what to do. The mascot was told what was going to happen, not shown what was going to happen. And you have 2 worlds colliding, the biggest platform in sports, the NBA Finals, and you think it's the good idea to have your mascot get his butt kicked while you're also taking a big L and getting your heads dragged through the dirt in the NBA Finals itself. The whole thing is preposterous, makes no sense to me.
You know what's crazy is you're talking about this, and now it's kind of going through my head. I mean, you have an incredibly unique perspective on this, but I kind of think the storyline that has come out of this, that if people have seen this, is, oh my goodness, Conor McGregor is a psycho. What is he doing out there? He's crazy. I can't believe Conor McGregor did this. But as you're laying out the storyline, Conor did absolutely nothing wrong. Conor showed up to have a good time, is asked to be in this bit, says yes, and he's promoting a product. He's there for a reason. So, yeah, of course, I'll take part in the bit, whatever helps me get my thing out there. Does what he's told to do, and unfortunately was given incredibly awful instructions, and it just sounds like the whole thing was kind of executed in an incredibly, if I can say it, unprofessional manner.
Irresponsible, if anything else, right? And here's the deal. Whether Conor was given, I'm not going to say bad information. He was given, I can almost guarantee this, he was given very subjective information. Because a lot of times when me and you talk, right, before we really get down, we're talking back and forth. We subjectively talk about things. And then before the show, we dial it in.
Right.
We talk and we dial it in. But if now me and you are just talking with a third party intermediary and we never talked before we started recording this, everything's still subjective. I don't know where you're going with the subject. You don't know where I'm going with the subject, right? That's what happened here, is that a third party linked the 2 together, but only through that third party. So, hey, Conor, do this. Hey, Conor is going to do this. Whereas I would be like, no, you need to bring Conor to me back here. We need to talk about it. We're going to go mark it on the court. I'm going to walk to point A. At that point, Conor needs to get out of his seat, walk to point B. At that point, we're going to work this little choreographed dance some way, shape, or form. And then, Conor, when you decide to do it, let's go here, not here, or here, and make sure, and I'm going to absorb it, and you're going to give me a tell of when it's about to happen.
Yeah. It's wild. Like, I kind of want to link another part of your world. I think of it as like professional wrestling, right? I mean, because this is what we saw, right? We saw a simulated combat, right? But Conor McGregor is not a trained professional wrestler. He's a trained mixed martial artist. So, as you said, if you're going to do a bit like this, the responsible thing to do is to do exactly what you said. We need to get together and choreograph everything for the safety of everyone involved. Now, if you've got, CM Punk in there and you're bringing him in, hey man, the dude's been simulating combat for a long time. We can do this. You know what I mean? We can, somebody that's been doing professional wrestling for years and decades, you could probably just, snap and, hey, here's kind of what I got in mind. Yeah, we'll pull that off, no problem. But if not, you've got to choreograph everything for the safety of everyone involved. And that's what we saw. What we saw is exactly why that needs to be handled in that way.
Not to mention just the bad idea it was for you to take 2 L's on the night if you're the Miami Heat.
That's right. You need to be doing something to build up the team, right? You need to be doing something to like, hey, we got Conor McGregor in our corner. We know we're down, guys, but we got the biggest fighter in the history of combat sports, and he's here to help us rally and take down.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to come up with it off the top of my head, right? Here's how I would have used Conor McGregor. Hey, Eric, we got Conor McGregor. How do you want to use him? Okay. I'm going to create a fake villain for the game. We're going to show him on camera a couple times during the kiss cam or the fan cam or the flex cam or whatever cam we want. And we're going to go to him and he's going to be wearing a Denver Nuggets jersey and he's going to be acting like a pompous a-hole. And I'm going to keep him on the camera for an extended period of time so every fan in the arena sees it, and then he draws boos, right? And then a timeout. Correct. Popping the shirt, like, oh, you guys think, all the bad guy heel wrestling moves. He's going to do that in the stands. Then a timeout or 2 later, we're going to go back to him. And he's going to be like, we're up 2-1. You guys suck, right? And I'm gonna now he's gonna be mouthing stuff, and he's gonna draw more heat, more boos. At that point, notorious. And you see Conor McGregor and the mascot strutting
Really
out of the tunnel. Now there's a confrontation. Conor, bing, bang, boom. Then the mascot does something at the very end to hit some comedy relief to it, to let everybody know it's kind of a bit. Then it's like, it's the fourth quarter. Miami, on your feet. We can still do this. Make some noise. And Conor McGregor's at center court leading the rallying charge. I literally just came up with that on the top of my head.
I'm excited right now. I'm thinking I can visualize the whole thing in my head. And I'm like, man, I'm not even a Miami fan, but at that point, I'm hyped up. Let's go Heat, baby. Let's go.
Right. But no. Hey, Conor, I know we're losing in the series. I have the greatest idea. Let's add insult to our own injury and knock out our mascot.
And then, by the way, let's add insult to our own injury, and then let's add injury to our own insult. How about that?
Yeah, and then how about we'll take the guy to the emergency room afterwards?
Oh, what a disaster. You're so right. If you'd done it your way, everything's perfect. But even if the bit was the bit that they ran with, you got to make sure everybody involved knows what's going on. But it was a dumb bit to begin with.
It was a dumb bit to begin with. And here's the deal. If they would have taken the 5 seconds to think this through, now you have the showstopper, you have the showstopper, the ultimate showman, and Conor McGregor doing all of his greatest hits, right?
Yeah.
Coming out like he could be, then he could throw some dollar bills on the guy's face afterwards, right? And be like, get this guy. Yeah, like there's so many opportunities to
$1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase style, right?
Correct. Yes. And now we're just punking this guy. So even if you did take an L in the game, the crowd got this moment.
Yeah. Boy, you're so right about that, man. Boy, I tell you what, this is a peek behind the curtains of everything that goes on with that, but you're spot on with it. And I'm telling you, the more I sit here and think about it, like, I feel like the Heat need to offer Conor McGregor a formal apology, man. And I'm sure they did behind the scenes, I imagine. But, like, literally, I live in the world of mixed martial arts. You live in both these worlds. But all the feedback I saw after this incident was, my goodness, what Conor McGregor, this dude, he's ridiculous. He's off his rails, what he's doing. And as you lay it out there, man, they set this dude up for failure. They set the biggest star in the sport up for failure, and it went as wrong as it could possibly go.
I feel sorry for Conor McGregor, and I feel sorry for the performer that is Bernie, the mascot for the Heat. Great guy. Young. Yeah, he's okay. I've talked to him.
I was gonna say we read I read some notes that said that he was it was taking the ER, but he is okay though, right?
Perfectly fine. A-okay,
good,
right?
Good.
I feel sorry for the talent involved because it was the setup of whoever in the marketing department came up with this idea didn't, there's a wise phrase that is applicable to this. Inspect what you expect. Inspect what you're expecting, meaning run through it, practice it. And now, if this is a Tuesday in February, maybe you could get around not practicing it, but you sure as heck should at least get all the parties and talk about it. But now we're talking game 4 of the NBA Finals on ABC Friday or Saturday night. Biggest platform, media from all over the world is there, and we're not going to practice this bit.
That's wild. That's wild. It is wild. That's crazy to think about. That's so crazy. You got to at least a quick dress rehearsal, like just a quick one. Like, hey man, make sure you punch me here. To know that they didn't even talk. Like, I get it. You don't have to spend hours talking about it, but hey man, just so you know, when you punch me, can you please make sure it's like here, or I don't know, like where's the safest part? Like I said, I had no idea there was a helmet under there. Can you imagine? I mean, the way it worked out was pretty bad. Let me think about the flip side. Conor throws an overhand, catches him on top of the head, it lands on the helmet, breaks his hand. Now he needs to have a pin placed in his hand, and we're delaying the UFC pay-per-view that we're trying to get done for December. My man can't even enroll in the USADA pool because his hand is broken. I mean, it's just there's so many ways it could have gone wrong. You can't do that without a little bit of planning.
And I can understand the marketing person who came up with it, talk to them. Hey, Conor, go out there and hit him. Not knowing and assuming that Conor's going to like playfully do it. Right. And then they go, Conor is going to playfully hit you. I can see how that mistake happens when you just talk separately to people. I see how that happens.
Right.
And guess what?
Right.
This is like the worst case scenario happening because of not inspecting what you expect.
Yeah, you got to at least have the conversation where he can look over and be like, "Hey, man, when he says hit me, you understand, not like really hit me. Like I'm not a trained mixed martial artist. Like maybe just kind of lightly hit me. Like that's crazy, man."
And I have it on
crazy.
firsthand account that Conor was nothing but gracious. That Conor said, "Hey, man, I didn't know. I'm sorry. They said you were protected." And then he was very apologetic that somebody got hurt. And thank goodness, like this guy really didn't get hurt. Thank goodness.
Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Yeah, because taken to the ER, I mean, precautionary reasons, I guess. Let's just make sure. Probably had like a headache, maybe some concussion-like things. You're just being careful.
He said his neck was hurting him.
Yeah, that's a smart thing to do. Be careful. Yeah, and neck injuries, man, you got to be careful with that because there's all kinds of nerves and things that can happen. So just precautionary. But yeah, that could have gone horribly, even worsely wrong. That's crazy. That's so wild. I couldn't wait to hear from you. I didn't know you were going to have all this information. This is amazing.
Right. And so when you said what my first thought, and this was before I knew anybody was hurt, my first thought was anger because I said, this is kind of painting the industry in a bad light. Like we're just out here like clown shoes, right? That's why I was mad first. And now I'm somewhat infuriated by the situation because a colleague of mine did get hurt of no fault of Conor's, but a fault of not doing what you're supposed to doing in this industry that I'm
wild.
So
yeah, you're at the highest level of that industry. And I mean, I doubt the average person thinks about how much really goes into the process and to how much, really meticulously planning. And as you said, just the concept of the bit alone, the one you came up with was far better. I mean, no offense to anybody involved, but it's just simple fact. Yours is way better. It's kind of interesting to hear all that's behind the scenes. I bet most people never are ever aware of.
Yeah, you know what? So, I mean, two worlds colliding. When you text me, you're like, you talk about two paradigms just.
I was like, I can't wait till Monday. I don't want to start talking about it till Monday because this is crazy. This is
the amount of text with that link that hit my phone this week.
Bro, you were made for this. Like, this was your moment. Like, this was the moment your entire life has led to this for you to break down this situation. And I think you have done so masterfully.
Okay, good. So Conor for the week, check mark. All right, let's get into what happened. UFC 289 this week. Amanda, the Lioness Nunes, makes it look easy. Aldana, I don't know. Let's start there. Was the moment too big for her at this point?
Man, it's crazy, right? Like, I didn't think so going into it, but in retrospect, it seems like maybe it was. And she has issued a statement that's saying, I see what the blockage was. And so for her to say that, like, I think that she's admitting there was a bit of maybe a mental, lapse and just the enormity of the moment maybe got to her a little bit. And maybe it did. We talked about how much, like, her teammate, Alexa Grasso, beat Valentina Shevchenko. But maybe she kind of went in there a little bit more free because it was just like, hey, nobody expects me to win this fight anyway. She's one of the greats. Like, I'm just going to go in there and be free and do me. And maybe Irene, all week long, she was putting up the fours, being, I'm going to be the fourth Mexican champion, and maybe she was feeling a little bit more responsibility out of the moment, whereas everybody else that went in there just felt free and felt available. It's tough. And then add in all that. And here's the biggest thing that I take out of Saturday night is that I think you do have to wonder where Irene's head was at, what was the moment too big for, the psychology, everything. But then on the flip side of that, you just also have to look at Amanda Nunes and say, my goodness, how dang good is she?
There was at one point a stat was thrown out, and it may even be the stat for the whole night. Amanda Nunes, I think it was in round 3, the commentator said, Amanda Nunes has landed more significant strikes than Aldana has even thrown.
Oh, that's amazing. And then how about just even like the takedowns early on where Amanda would take her down and then just like stand back up. Like, oh no, I don't actually want to compete on the ground. I just want to make sure I can put you down on the ground at any point I want, and I will dictate exactly. I mean, that has to be a little bit psychologically breaking. Like, wait, you're taking me down and you don't even want to compete down here? You're not even looking to get to a grappling battle? You just wanted to show me that you could put me down on the ground anytime you want? Unbelievable.
Well, and I really thought early on in that first round, I mean, we kind of talked about it before we started recording, is I thought there was some sort of downloading information going on.
Yep.
And I'm a good boxer. I'm going to keep a high guard just to make sure I really don't catch one. And now I'm going to read tells. I'm going to open up 2, 3, 4, and hopefully gain steam as this fight. Yep. It never materialized.
I thought the same thing. Opening 5 minutes, I was like, okay. I was like, hey, she knows that, look, it's my first championship match. Let me get in here. Let me keep, as you said, let me keep the guard high. I'm going to make sure I don't take any damage. But let me get comfortable in here. Let me get used to the idea that I'm facing Amanda Nunes. And also, we know that if there is potentially a weakness of Amanda, it's that she'll probably get tired a little bit late. So let me just get 5 minutes on her where I've done nothing. So I've expended zero energy, but she has been in here, unloading the offense. And I thought the same thing. But by the end of it, those moments in the corner in between rounds were almost painful to watch. You know what I mean? Where the coach is just saying, please, you got to do something. You got to get going. What are you doing? You got to throw. This is your moment. This is your opportunity, please. And just pleading with her. And she could. It finally opens up in the 5th round and gets absolutely taxed. I mean, that's a 10-8 round on all 3 judges' card because the moment she opens up, now you start seeing why she didn't want to open up because she gets absolutely devastated. It's just, man, it's a one-sided performance that, again, I think definitely leaves Irene Aldana open to criticism, although I still do believe that she's a great athlete and better days are ahead, but just goes to show the masterfulness of Amanda Nunes.
After the fight, 2 belts on her shoulders, calls it quits, lays him down, celebrates in the ring after a moment of solace, right? Lays it down in the ring, drinking beer, the whole, we've talked about all of our legends going out the way that we wish they wouldn't have. Amanda Nunes flipped that script.
Unbelievable. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about the night of, and I'm not a big instant reaction kind of guy because I always just feel like everything's colored by that moment and that emotion, and maybe you're not really thinking right. But last night I sat there and I was actually watching the post-fight show 24 hours later and kind of reliving it and going through my minds. And I actually took to Twitter and I tweeted, greatest retirement of all time. One day later, I'm struggling to think of a better one. Dominant win, lay down 2 belts, bring in your family, have your child dance in the octagon, drink a beer, smile a lot. Hell of a career, hell of a way to wrap it up. I literally cannot think of a better retirement. You talk about going out on top and just enjoying that moment. That's how it should be. And I'll tell you what, this is something I've thought about since I sent that tweet. Your worlds colliding once again. Mixed martial arts, professional wrestling, right? I mean, they share a lot of similarities. It's undeniable, right? But here's one thing that I think we need to separate between the two. In professional wrestling, you got to give the rub to the next guy coming up, right? The old retiring legend has to give that rub. They have to take that L and they have to pass that shine on to the next generation. I think in mixed martial arts, we need to stop that. We don't need to have that same kind of belief. I do not need to necessarily pass on these belts to the next generation. I can walk away with them at the highest of high and let that next generation build themselves up. I would like to see more people retire like Amanda Nunes. I would also like them not to say that whoever wins the belt next is fake. It's a fake belt.
That's where I was going. Okay, right?
Yeah. So there's a balance. I would not going to say that, but I would like to see more people go out on top like Amanda Nunes, and it just doesn't happen enough in our industry. And I understand, and I'll let you speak to it because you're far more knowledgeable than me, but it does make sense why you need to pass the rub, why you need to hand it on to that next generation. But, man, let those legends go out on top.
I love the timing of the retirement. I love the retirement. I love the celebration of the retirement. Didn't like the post-fight of the retirement. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. I think it's disingenuous to a degree. It was taking shots at Juliana Pena without really saying because she's not good enough. Now, she did say that she's not capable of being a champion or whatever words she said it in. The simple fact is Juliana Pena stopped her, right? And so now we're 1-1. We don't get to see a rubber match. I do wish I got to see a rubber match. I'm not going to stand on a mountaintop and saying I deserved to see a rubber match. Amanda Nunes has done enough. But I would have hoped that she would have said the division's in a great place. These girls are amazing, and I can't wait to watch where it goes forward. That's the PR in me, right?
I know, I get it.
She would have said that.
I agree with you. It would. How about if she'd have said that and then just ended it with unless Juliana Pena gets the belt? But I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
But
that was a direct shot at Juliana Pena, right?
But you're 100% right, and I think that was the only failure there, saying whoever wins this, it's a fake belt. Mine are real forever. I mean, you can always say, look, I have these belts. They will sit in my house. You can never take these away from me. But as you said, I look forward to seeing where the division goes. I look forward to seeing the next champion, but nobody's ever going to take these belts from me. I think that's the only misstep Amanda Nunes had. Everything else, nailed it, spot on, and I hope more legends, champions will walk out that way on top. I mean, look, we talk about it sometimes. We're both parents. I mean, to have your kid in the octagon celebrating that moment, dancing, and me, I like a frosty beverage. I mean, who brings a frosty beverage into the octagon? And I mean, granted, I think she poured more of it on herself than she actually enjoyed, but still, you know what I mean? Just to be like, I don't have to rush out of here. This is my office. This is my home. I did all my great things in here, and you're not going to rush me out of here. You're not going to rush me off camera. I'm going to take my time. Cut man, where are you? Get these gloves off. You know what I mean? Like she owned the moment, and she enjoyed that last time in a competitive space in that hallowed ground. I love everything she did, save for, not kind of putting the next person over without actually putting them over and letting them beat you. And I think that would have been the perfect. So that's the lesson here. Let more legends go out like that, but let that legend also understand the business needs to go on. The company needs to go on. At least if you're not putting over the next person, at least put over the fact that the legacy will move on from you.
The greatness is that Amanda Nunes' 11 victories in UFC title fights are tied with Anderson Silva, fourth most in company history, behind John Jones, George St. Pierre, and Demetrius Johnson. 11 victories in women UFC title fights, most in company history. 16 victories in UFC competition, most for any female competitor in company history. 13 victories in UFC women's bantamweight competition, most in division history. First ballot Hall of Famer, greatest woman fighter of all time, hands down.
You could do it in July, man. You don't even have to wait till the next one. Just put her in the next one. I know we already got a full lineup, but absolutely. And Eric, here's the one that really stands out to me more than just numbers themselves. And granted, the division hasn't been around a long time, and especially when you talk about the featherweight division, that's a whole nother thing. But any woman that's ever held the bantamweight title or the featherweight title, she holds a victory over. Think about that. Nobody has ever touched that belt and also beaten Amanda Nunes. It hasn't happened. That's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Isn't that? That's incredible to me.
Man. All right. Co-main event. The people's main event, the one that we thought was going to be the knockdown, drag out, most technical fight we had ever seen. Nope. Charles Oliveira improves his record to 34-9 with a first round TK over Beneil Dariush. Record falls to 22-5-1. The head kick led to the TKO stoppage. Flawless victory. Aside from, maybe being on his back for 2 minutes, but nothing was happening there.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing about Charles Oliveira, right? Is, he wants to be on his back. You know what I mean? Like, he's totally cool with that. He's got all the submissions in the game. But yeah, this was incredible. This was one of those heart-wrenching ones, right? Because Beneil Dariush is one of the nicest, most humble, most genuine dudes in the game. And to see his heart broken, I mean, just to see the look on his face, that was frustrating. But it just goes to show you the greatness of Charles Oliveira. That dude is incredible, man. The skills that he brings to the table, unbelievable. I mean, it has meant so much to him all week long. You see the emotions on his face. He speaks English in the post-fight. That dude never speaks English, man. He speaks English in the post-fight to give the crowd thanks and makes his case that, hey, Islam Makhachev, you're next. We got to get this thing done. And I agree. I know sometimes fans probably get a little tired of being, well, we already saw that matchup. We just saw this. We just saw that. And I get it. But, man, this fight it's too good. And when you think about the timing, we know that Islam is going to fight in Abu Dhabi in October. It's the only matchup that makes sense for me. I know we've already seen it, and I know Islam was dominant in that fight, but I want to see it again, man. This was a statement from Charles Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira gave Uncle Dana the choice that he probably didn't want. With that lopsided loss to Islam Makhachev, I don't think anybody was going to say, hey, if Oliveira wins, he gets Islam. Because I don't think anybody assumed that the victory would be that dominant. Right. With the fact that the victory was that dominant, there is no other choice.
That's it. You laid it out. That's exactly right. And you summed it up perfectly, because I don't think it was necessarily option A going in, but after a performance like that, it's, as you said, it's not only option A, it's the only option. It's the only one that makes sense. I mean, look, you do have Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje coming up fighting for a BMF title, and that's going to be incredible. But, I mean, that's the end of July. We're talking about fight in October. Like, you think either of those dudes is going to be able to I don't care who wins. Like, that's going to be a war. There's no way either one of those dudes is going to come out of there and be like, yeah, 2.5 months, I'm down. That sounds about right. Like, no. So when you add in the timing aspect of it, and that is a big thing when it comes to UFC matchmaking, right? When Dana White comes to the post-fight press conference and we say, what's next? And what are you thinking? And he always says, hold on, man, there's a lot that goes into it. These are the things that go into it, right? Like, we have certain guys we want to fight in certain cities or certain dates when people are available and health. And I mean, there's all these things that go into it. But when you add everything into it, I just don't see how Charles Oliveira isn't the only option, as you said.
He cements, I don't know to call it a legacy, but he put some respect on my name. And I've always said that I think Charles Oliveira is completely under-respected for how much he has done. And I don't know if it's because he's a tall, skinny guy. I don't know if it was because, his frame doesn't look like some of these other guys, or whether it be he took some L's very early in his career, moved to division, came back to lightweight, then started wrecking shop. But for some reason, there's been a stigma, like, maybe not said, but that it's just kind of floated over Charles Oliveira. Like, because maybe he got dropped early in a lot of fights, that he was always the dog in the underdog in the next fight. That needs to be put to rest now. There cannot be any disrespect ever from any pundits, any fans, the organization, whoever, put on Charles Oliveira.
No, I 100% agree. And I think it's a little bit of everything, right? I mean, it's wild. First of all, he's like half blind, so he has to wear glasses all the time, except he can't when he fights. You know what I mean? But so normally you see him in glasses, and he's just talking about, thank God for everything. He's not really a big talker, and we like those big talkers. But you said it. I mean, he had those setbacks early on in his career. I mean, you think he was a kid when he came to the UFC. I mean, legit a kid, and he suffered some losses. But you go back and you look at the names: Jim Miller, Hall of Famer, going to be Donald Cerrone, Hall of Famer. Cub Swanson, Hall of Famer. Frankie Edgar, Hall of Famer. Max Holloway, Hall of Famer. Anthony Pettis, Hall of Famer. Ricardo Lamas might be the one that doesn't get to the Hall of Fame, but still, we know how tough Ricardo Lamas
but very, very, very good.
But very, very good. And then Paul Felder as well. You know what I mean? So it's like he had like this kind of stretch of his career where he was about 500. But when you go back and revisit those results, no shame in literally any of them. And then he went on this insane run, just beating everybody. And now he's got a little swagger. Now he is talking a little bit. Now he is saying what he deserves. Now he is stepping out and dyeing the hair and trying to have a little fun with it all. And on top of all that, he finishes fights, man. Submissions, striking, it's all there. Like, that dude is exciting. Even if he'd have never held a title, I want to watch this dude fight. He is going to make it a great fight.
And he's got the moxie now that demands the respect. Did you see right after the fight, he was like, he didn't take a lot. He didn't need to be like, it was the less is more in a lot of times. And he had that, and it showed like, I am the man. I am the man. It was awesome.
That's that old school Barry Sanders, right? Just act like you've been there. Like, I don't need to blow it up. Like, what did you expect? I knew I was going to come in here and do this. Like, I just did what I was supposed to do. So, look, I love everything about Charles Oliveira. I understand Islam Makhachev is probably looking for some different matchups and wants to do something different. And Islam said, he tweeted right away, hey, there's levels to this. All right, well, then let's see it, because Islam may be that guy. And if you're that guy that can beat this dude twice, then you are that guy. So, but let's see it. I want to see it. I think everybody wants. I just don't see how anybody doesn't want to see this matchup again. I know it's one we just saw not all that long ago. I know it's one that Islam was dominant. But who else do you want to see either one of these guys fight? Especially knowing that we got to fight on the calendar for October. Who else do you want to see in there? I don't see anybody other than Charles Oliveira.
22 victories in the UFC, tied with Damian Maia for fourth most in company history, only behind Jim Miller, 25, Andrei Arlovski, 23, Donald Cerrone, 23 victories. His 20 stoppages in the UFC competition, most in company history. 14 stoppage victories in UFC lightweight competition, second most in division history behind Jim Miller. He's been awarded 19 Fight Night UFC bonuses. All right. 13 performance of the night bonuses.
Yes. That's mind-blowing stuff. I mean, think about that. That's just literally mind-blowing stuff. What are we talking? At the highest level, we always say, hey, listen, man, decisions happen when you're talking about the two best in the world going at it. You know what I mean? It's hard to finish these guys. It's just difficult. And he's out there getting these submissions, getting these knockouts. The guy's as good as it gets, man. As exciting as it gets. That guy embodies what we want to see in the UFC. And like I said, we've seen him grow up. We've seen him get tested. And I understand there was criticism of a time that he quits in fights. And it was fair criticism because we saw it. It's accurate. But yet he kept moving past that and kept growing. And you definitely cannot question that moxie that you has both, in fights, after the fights, everything, man. The guy is the real deal.
Talking about greatness, the great Floyd Mayweather Jr. had an exhibition boxing match yesterday versus the grandson of the infamous crime boss, John Gotti. Floyd Mayweather versus John Gotti III. Before we get into this a little bit, did you see the melee that took place afterwards? Have you seen this yet?
That's what I was going to tell you is what's crazy is I knew it was happening. But Sunday's kind of my family day, and that's when I kick it, with the wife and the kid and all that. Still do tune in to watch some combat sports if something's going on, but I skipped that one because I'm like, why do I need to watch it? So I did not see a single second of the match itself, but I saw the melee because that was everywhere. That was everywhere on social media.
Holy smokes. If you guys have not seen it, go check it out. Just type in Floyd Mayweather Jr. into a search into Twitter, and your feed will be taken over. Now, John Gotti III, he is an MMA fighter.
Yep.
He's tough. He's got knockouts. He's got power.
He's got hands.
Have you followed him at all?
Absolutely. I'll tell you this, during my time with MMA Junkie, the amount of traffic that he generated versus where he stands on the scene, it makes sense because the name, but it made no sense. It was unbelievable. The dude got traffic. So we followed his career from a very early day because he generated traffic for the website. But I watched him compete. Like, as you said, the dude's got power, man. He can put people out. He's got hands. So when this was announced, as kind of weird as it was, I didn't look at it and go like, well, there's he's got power. And granted, Floyd is the greatest of all time in terms of defensive movement and that sort of thing. But it did make me think, okay, well, there's a possibility he could maybe land something.
So, well, I thought there was no possibility, but
well,
I'm glad you're being nice.
Hey, listen,
he does come from an organized crime family. Yes, he had a hell of a chance. Hell of a chance.
I took it. It was like the Conor McGregor fight where you knew that like the odds of landing something on Floyd Mayweather, who is just a gifted boxer, man, an incredible athlete, regardless of his age. What he does, some people might not find exciting, but if you just break it down as a science and a craft of what he does, he's one of the best to ever do it. So I kind of broke it down like Conor in that if he lands, this could get interesting, but like, is he going to land? Probably not.
Well, I broke it down like self-preservation. Yes, he had a hell of a chance of winning just out of self-preservation. Right? The infamous crime lords going after Eric McMahon over here.
I'm going out to the East Coast this week, so man, I was picking Gotti. Just FYI, I put all my money down.
So hey, and I don't know if you see why the bout got called off. Apparently, Floyd and Gotti were talking major crap to each other during this fight. Like, Floyd started coming after him. I watched clips of Floyd really tagging him, and we hadn't seen those in those exhibition matches. Let's check against Logan Paul. He protected Logan Paul in that fight.
Yeah.
He stopped protecting John Gotti III at some point.
Interesting. So, it's funny. It's funny you say it. So, I was seeing a little bit of the chatter. I heard that Floyd, as I said, I haven't seen any of the actual match, but I heard that Floyd was like touching him up and like not even looking at him, like talking to the crowd, talking to him and kind of embarrassing him or whatever. But what I did, so you're saying that the bout was called off early, because I just thought that was like the final bell when all that melee happened, is like that was just the scheduled end of the match, but it was called off early.
I read that it was waved off due to like the ref kind of losing control, and the ref was like,
Wow.
we're done. If you're not going to listen to me and I'm telling you guys to shut up, we're done.
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
And one of the shots apparently that John Gotti took a real exception to was a back of the head. He kind of turned down. I don't know if it was an intended shot to the back of the head, but he took one to the back of the head. Gotti then grabbed the back of his head, ref, back of the head, and and Floyd was like, bam, like as that happened, right?
Wow.
Then the melee happens. The ref calls it off. The melee happens. Everybody floods in. But here's also the brilliance of Floyd Mayweather. As this is going on, John Gotti III is coming after him like a bull. He is bulling over him, throwing wild shots. He's high and tight. He hits him with one counter left, stumbles Gotti across the ring, and he's like, "Okay, I'm done."
Yeah, dude. I was gonna say
that.
Oh no! Just so watching the melee footage, what I took out of that is that Floyd Mayweather is an absolute gangster. Like, no disrespect to the actual organized crime family, but Floyd Mayweather is a gangster because you're right. He's like, okay, you're coming to attack me? Cool. This is what I do. Lands the shot, drops his hands. And then as the ring is getting flooded with people, Floyd's just calmly like got his hands down, walking forward, just like, yep. What's up now? I mean, look, man, love or hate Floyd Mayweather, you have to appreciate how great he is at what he does. And his calmness in that absolute chaos was insane. And it was absolute chaos.
Then he cuts a promo afterwards, like in the back. That's why I sell. I put on shows. That's what I do. That's why people want to see me. I put on shows. It was, in a weird way, I love everything about it. If you're going to do a sideshow, make it a sideshow.
Of course. I mean, you think about what Floyd Mayweather has been able to accomplish since he, quote unquote, retired, doing these exhibitions. Can never even touch my record. I will be undefeated forever, but I'm going to go out there. I'm going to put on these shows. And it's incredible. I mean, the amount of money he's still generating, but he's right. He puts on a show, man. Man, the one that stands out to me always will be the tension fight over in Japan, where he went over there and like the hours before the fight, he's not even in the arena. And you're like, is this dude even going to show up? Like, what is happening now? Right. He goes out there and tension comes at him and throws. And you could see Floyd is just, hey, and he said it going in, we're just going to move around. We're just going to have a little fun, not even trying to say this is going to be competitive. And then tension throws a real shot at him. He's like, we're going? Let's go. And then just absolutely annihilates the kid afterwards. One of the most gifted strikers on the planet. And Floyd Mayweather just annihilated him, man. It's incredible what he's been able to do, man. A once-in-a-generation athlete, that's for sure.
This has been a fun episode so far. I need to dial us back in, right? Some MMA we need to talk about in the future. Golly, this episode kind of went off the rails. I love it, though, right? Bellator 297 this Friday from Chicago, Illinois, Friday the 16th. I love Bellator Friday cards. Love them.
Me too.
Huge card. Headline, Nemkov, Yoel Romero. Wow.
Phenomenal. I mean, this is a fantastic matchup. I mean, obviously title on the line, but Yoel Romero, I mean, the ageless wonder that he is, getting in there. I mean, just a spectacular athlete. You talk about once in a generational type athletes. I mean, that guy is unbelievable against Vadim Nemkov. But as you said, it's not just one fight. This whole card is fantastic, man. The bantamweight titles, 2 title fights, the bantamweight title fight. I'm as excited. I think maybe the casual consumer that doesn't maybe watch a lot of Bellator, or that doesn't even watch a lot of MMA, they'll know the name Yoel Romero and they'll be like, oh, I want to see that. You know what I mean? They may not even know Vadim Nemkov, who is a fantastic athlete, and can't wait to see that. But the bantamweight title, Sergio Pettis, Patricio Pitbull Freire, that is amazing, man. Cannot wait to see that fight. That to me is the highlight. But then you go Corey Anderson and Phil Davis, 2 very recognizable names there. Daniel James, Gokhan Sarkam rounding out the main card. Chicago's own Daniel James should mention that. So that'll be a hometown fight for him. I mean, this is a stacked one. And as you said, I love it when it's on Friday night because it's not going head to head with the UFC. I love when I can watch both of them. And
it's a little bit later here for me, Central Time. I can put the kids to bed. It starts at about 9:30 usually on these Showtime cards. I love it. The undercard got Kyle Krushmer on it. Jaleel Willis is on the undercard of this fight. My good friend Jaleel Willis, who had beat Kyle Krushmer last time, but they're both on the other undercard. I think Bellator might be a little mad that Jaleel beat Kyle Krushmer because they put him up against a Dagestan, undefeated Dagestan guy, formerly of Team Khabib. I don't know if that's like a setup fight. Do you know anything about that guy?
Exactly what you would expect from a Dagestani dude. You know what I mean? Like that's what he's bringing to. And I love, but you know what I love is that they're willing to kind of go all in on that. Like they're signing these people like that, and it just adds to the roster time. The Bellator roster is better than it's ever been. There's no question about it. It's deeper than it's ever been.
I am tremendously looking for top to bottom. That is the card of the weekend for me. Now you do have a mega headliner for the next night UFC on ESPN 47. Vettori versus Jared Cannonier. Two powerhouses go. I want to see these two guys stand in the middle. I want to see who takes the first step backwards.
I love it. This is a big one. As you said, it's number 3 versus number 4 in the UFC in that division, man. So title implications are very, very clear. This is a big one. And stylistically, it should be a fun one. So, sometimes these fight night cards, maybe not the deepest line, especially like right after a pay-per-view, because I always feel bad for that next week because you're coming down from the highs of the pay-per-view and you look at the next lineup and you go, oh, well, that's not a pay-per-view. But this headliner right here could be on any pay-per-view, man. There's no question about it. Mm-hmm. It's a great one. And then some other fun fights, as there always are, these Apex. I mean, you're going to see some highlights. But when you're talking about the fights that matter the most in the UFC, it's that main event this weekend. No question about it.
Man, this was a fun episode, was it?
Craziness.
Floyd Mayweather fighting gangsters. Conor McGregor fighting mascots. Oh, yeah, and we had a UFC pay-per-view and two hell of big cards coming up that are free this weekend, and we touched on it all.
And let me just say, I mean, depending how deep you want to go, if you want to, maybe you don't get Showtime. Not that you shouldn't be watching Bellator, you should, but maybe you don't get Showtime. It's a premium channel. Maybe you don't pay for that. But if you got UFC Fight Pass, you can watch CFFC 120. My man in CM Punk in Atlantic City. I will say this.
Who's coming back to wrestling?
Bro, I was going to say. So let me just say.
Villain number 1 in the locker room, apparently.
I'm telling you right now. I'm a shill for CFFC. There's no doubt about it. I love the company. I love the promotion. I love being a part of it. I'm telling you right now, the card is as deep as we've ever had. I mean, it is loaded up. The names on there are fantastic. It's going to be a fantastic card. But, yes, how cool is that? One night ahead of CM Punk's return to AEW. He's gonna show up, work with me in Atlantic City, and then the next night he's returning to AEW in Chicago. I mean, how cool is that? I'll definitely be tuned in for that. I cannot wait.
You need to do us a favor for us wrestling nerds. And I'm sure he's mended fences and hands have been shaking and whatnot, but there's some craziness. There's MMA fighting going on. And the last time he was in an AEW locker room, I need the scoop and the deets next week when he gets back from that locker room. I just want to wait and see what happens, because I think the fans want to see him back, but the fans with the information day and age, the fans know what happened.
Yeah, it's a wild one. So over the months since everything unfolded, obviously Punk's a friend of mine. We worked together quite a bit over the time, and I've had some conversations about kind of what's gone on, and a lot of those have been kind of private, off the record conversations, of course. But be careful what you hear out there, boys and girls. Not everything you read on the internet is real. I'm excited to see how this all plays out.
Is what you're saying.
No, I didn't say that. I don't know. I don't know how much I can share and how much I can't share. I'll let Punk himself
that's
share
the topic. So I host a wrestling podcast as well every Thursday. Grind City Media, Grind City Wrestling. Check us out. We just went to video podcast as well. But the question was work or shoot, and it was a question for a long time.
Here's what I'll say. The tension is real. Like everything that unfolded is real. I know I can share that. Like everything that happened, the tension is real. It is not, this is not a work. And this was some kind of, because I think some people were like, well, he's recovering from surgery, so maybe this was just a way to let him recover from surgery. Mm-hmm. Not the case. Those things did simultaneously happen. I can tell you all the hard feelings and all the tension is real. And granted, I'm probably I'm biased in this because I like Punk. I work with him. I consider him a friend. But it's frustrated me to see some of the characterizations that have been out there. Some of the things that have been said I find to be wholly inaccurate about his character, about his personality, about everything. I mean, I just again, I'm coming from a biased perspective, no doubt about it. But I will say, yeah, everything that's happened, as far as like if you're a wrestling fan, you're like, they just been dragging me along this whole time. This is garbage. You know, these guys are all buddies behind the scenes, and they're just having fun, and they're all laughing at us in the boardroom that we're thinking this is real. No, there's been a lot of real tension and a lot of real feelings and a lot of real frustrations between everybody involved. Not a wrestling fan, but being close enough to at least him to see some of the stuff that's been said. It's been frustrating for me to just be quiet on the sidelines because I think a lot of people are saying things about Punk that just aren't accurate.
That's good to hear because to your point, man, we've discussed it through and through. And I took the position of like what I'm reading, I don't necessarily like to hear. But on the flip side of it, I've met Punk, 4 or 5 times now at CFFC shows. He's been nothing but a complete gentleman for the superstar, bona fide superstar that he is. He's been nothing but a gentleman every time.
That's what frustrated me with some of the initial stuff. I'm like, when I started hearing some of the initial reports and some of the things that were coming out, I'm like, does that sound like the guy that you've been around? You know what I mean? Like, have you ever interacted? And granted, I know the majority of the population hasn't had those experiences, and so they're just judging what they see. But when you know the man behind the scenes and you know his character and you know who he is, and then you read some of those reports and you're like, are you serious? Does that jive with everything that you've heard? All these things you're hearing now, does that jive with what you've been around? Does that jive with what you've seen firsthand with your own knowledge? And it just doesn't. And that's what's frustrating me about all this. Now, in the end, maybe it just creates more interest. It's wrestling. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm defending my man's character. He doesn't even want his character defended because he wants you to hate him because he's going to get out there and wrestle. He might be working
you into a shoot.
He's working me.
He's working you into a shoot.
There's levels to this game. He's on a different level. He's working me.
Man, I've got nothing left this episode. I've got nothing left. You can follow my man right there, John Morgan, on Twitter, John Morgan _MMA. Follow me _Mac Life. Yeah, just like that Mac Life that knocked out Bernie from the Miami Heat this past weekend. All right. Follow John Morgan. Read his articles, mixedmartialarts.com. They also pick them up on Sports Illustrated. You can read them there as well. Still haven't got my Just Bleed merch yet. I'm sure it's in the mail.
On the way. Shipping delays. You know how it goes, man. What am I going to do? FedEx? I don't know.
Yeah, backlog, COVID. I get it. All right. For the man, John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.